Right now, in your wallet, in your bank account, in your phone, you're holding something that has no real value at all. It's just paper, or numbers on a screen, or metal discs that cost less to make than the price stamped on them. And yet people have killed for it. Empires have risen and collapsed because of it. Wars have been fought over it. Entire civilizations have organized their lives, their dreams, and their deaths around this one shared belief. Because that's all money really is, a belief. A story so powerful that billions of strangers who will never meet agree to trust it completely. But it wasn't always this way. For most of human history, money as we know it didn't exist at all. And the story of how we invented it and then kept reinventing it is stranger than almost anyone realizes. Long before coins, before paper, before banks, humans lived in small communities where everyone knew everyone. If a farmer needed a tool, he didn't need money, he just remembered that he owed his neighbor a favor. Debt existed before currency. Trust existed before cash. Anthropologists studying ancient societies found something surprising. The old story we all learned in school, that ancient people used something called barter, directly trading a chicken for a pair of shoes, barely happened at all. Instead, early economies ran on memory and reputation. People kept mental ledgers of who owed what to whom. But as villages grew into cities, and cities grew into kingdoms, something happened that mental ledgers could not solve. Strangers began trading with strangers, people who had no shared history, no trust, no memory of each other. And that created a problem humanity had never faced before. How do you trade with someone you don't know and may never see again? The answer came from an unlikely place: shells. Around the world, in ancient China, in parts of Africa, and the Pacific Islands, small seashells called cowries became one of the first forms of shared value. They were rare enough to matter, small enough to carry, and impossible to fake. For the first time in history, value could travel between strangers. But shells had limits, and around 600 BCE, in the kingdom of Lydia in what is now Western Turkey, something changed the world forever. Metalworkers began stamping small pieces of electrum, a natural mix of gold and silver, with an official royal symbol. This was the birth of coinage. For the first time, a government was putting its stamp on value itself, telling the world, trust this, this is real, this is worth something. It should have just stayed as a useful invention. It didn't. Coins spread across the Mediterranean like wildfire. Greek city-states adopted them, the Persian Empire adopted them, and soon controlling coinage meant controlling power. Because whoever could mint coins could pay armies, and whoever could pay armies could conquer. Alexander the Great didn't just conquer land. Historians note that as his empire expanded, coins bearing his image spread from Greece to Egypt to India, turning currency into one of the first tools of mass propaganda. A coin wasn't just money, it was a message passed hand to hand, telling millions of people who was in charge. Rome took this even further. As the empire expanded, so did its currency, the denarius, which financed roads, armies, and the entire machinery of the ancient world's greatest superpower. But here's where history takes its first dark twist. When emperors needed more money than they had, they didn't ask citizens for more taxes. They did something far sneakier. They quietly reduced the amount of silver in each coin while keeping its face value the same. This is called debasement, and it may be the first recorded case of what we now call inflation. At first, no one noticed. The coins looked the same. But slowly, prices began rising. Trust began cracking, and historians link this currency manipulation to one of the underlying pressures that helped weaken the Roman economy in its final centuries. A civilization that built roads across 3 continents was being quietly hollowed out by something as simple as watered-down coins. You'd think humanity would have learned to be more careful with money after that. It didn't. Centuries later in medieval China, a new invention would once again change everything. Merchants grew tired of carrying heavy strings of metal coins across long trade routes, so during the Tang and Song dynasties, they began using paper certificates instead, promissory notes that could be exchanged for real coins stored safely elsewhere. This was the birth of paper money. It was revolutionary, lightweight, efficient, easy to transport across the vast trade networks of the Silk Road. But paper carried a hidden danger that metal never had. Coins had real material value. Paper had none. Its value existed purely because people trusted the government backing it. And when that government printed too much of it, promising more than it could actually redeem, the results were catastrophic. Historical records describe severe inflation crises in China when paper currency was overprinted, causing its value to collapse. This single lesson would repeat itself again and again throughout history, in France, in Weimar Germany, in Zimbabwe. Whenever trust in paper money broke, the paper became worthless almost overnight, sometimes even used as fuel for stoves because it was cheaper than wood fire. Money, it turned out, was never really gold, never really paper, never really metal. It was always a story, a shared fiction so convincing that entire civilizations organized themselves around it, fought wars over it, and built the modern world on top of it. By the time Europe entered the age of global exploration, money became the driving force behind entire empires. Spanish conquistadors sailed across oceans not for glory alone, but for silver, extracting it from mines in the Americas on a scale the world had never seen. That silver didn't just enrich Spain, it flooded into China, into India, into global trade networks, creating what historians consider one of the first truly global economies. But wealth extracted through conquest came at an almost unimaginable human cost, as indigenous populations in mining regions like Potosi suffered devastating losses under colonial forced labor systems. Money built empires, but it built them on top of unimaginable suffering. Then, in the 20th century, humanity reached its final and strangest step. After World War II, the world's major economies agreed to tie their currencies to the US dollar, which itself was tied to gold, under what became known as the Bretton Woods system. For decades, money still had a physical anchor, but in 1971, President Nixon made a decision that quietly transformed the entire global financial system. The United States ended the direct convertibility of dollars into gold. For the first time in modern history, the world's most powerful currency was backed by absolutely nothing physical at all. Just trust, just belief, just an agreement between billions of people that these numbers mean something. And somehow, it works. It still works today. Every time you tap a card, transfer money on your phone, or glance at a price tag, you're participating in the same ancient invention that began with shells and coins thousands of years ago. Only now, most of it isn't even physical. It's digital. Numbers moving silently between servers, trusted completely, even though you can't hold it in your hand. And that's the strange truth hiding in plain sight. Money was never really gold, never really paper, never really metal. It was always a story, a shared fiction so convincing that entire civilizations organized themselves around it, fought wars over it, and built the modern world on top of it. The next time you glance at your bank balance, remember this. You're not looking at wealth. You're looking at one of the oldest and most powerful ideas humanity has ever agreed to believe in together.